most of us are not going to be walking around in a Batsuit, right? So Batman's Batsuit is, depending on what era you're reading, is an incredible piece of technology and could be upward of a multi-million-dollar piece of tech, or rather collection of pieces of tech. So one of the things that we have to look at is not just his utility belt and all of his tools and weapons, right? Because obviously, he carries an absurd amount of batarangs with him and, various ninja-esque explosives, like flashbangs and smoke bombs and even small explosive charges to like blow up doors and stuff like that. Plus like flashlights and forensics equipment. But on top of that, depending on who's riding him, the fins on his gloves may be actually weaponized. His boots may in fact be pieces of gear, like perhaps climbing grade gear. He may have to be wearing something for weather conditions. Very frequently, at least since the 80s, he's typically depicted as wearing something that has some kind of bulletproofing either underneath it or it's made out of bulletproofing. In some cases, he just has like a technological suit, like in the Arkham games. Oftentimes he'll have like heads-up displays and things like that built in. He has radio and communications equipment built in. Like, there is so much going on there. But there are a couple of principles that we can look at here that can be pretty important. And that is going to be like safety and support gear. Now, obviously, we're not going to cover the tool belt and the weapons. And in some jurisdictions, you may not be allowed to have anti-ballistic armor. For some reason, that's illegal in some places, which is ridiculous. As martial artists and as fitness people, we often find people using safety and support gear in their training. And the question then comes in, when should you and when should you not use safety and support gear? Now, the number one principle on this is it specific to the task at hand? If you are doing equipped powerlifting, you have to train in the equipment, in the bench shirt, in the deadlift suit, right? In the squat suit, in the knee wraps. You have to train specific. And because like the lifting suits, the lifting equipment does change how you lift, and it changes where the problem areas are in the lift, you have to adjust your training properly. It doesn't mean you have to do all of your training that way, but you have to do a significant portion of your training to it so that you become accustomed to using that equipment. The same is true if you are doing combat sports. If you are doing, say, wushu sanda, where you are required to wear headgear, chest gear, boxing gloves, and I believe often shin pads, you have to get used to using that gear, because if you don't, you are going to find that the parameters of your training don't match up enough, and you're going to find new limitations when you're wearing that gear, or new capacities when you wear that gear that just didn't exist in the other context. So it is very, very important that you are training some level of specificity, which should be pretty high level of specificity pretty frequently. However, we also know that variation is an important principle. Variation is almost as important as specificity. And there are things that you will learn better if you take away the safety and support equipment. For instance, if you always lift with a belt, with knee sleeves, with wraps, with lifting straps, those things will become a crutch. If you always spar with headgear, with gloves, with chest pads, with foot and shin guards, those things will become a crutch. And you really don't want to be so reliant on the equipment that your capacity diminishes. Now, we know that those capacities are different, but one kind of feeds into the other, right? And a good example, right? Why do boxers break their hands all the time? Well, they never have to learn any structural integrity. Every practice, they wrap their hands. They get artificial external support, and thus they never really have to work on developing straight wrist strength, hand integrity, anything like that. If you're not doing that training, and then all of a sudden you go to punch somebody bare knuckle, you're going to have some problems. Because your ability to produce force that outstrips your body's ability to receive whatever reciprocation of force that is, you're going to damage yourself, or at least you increase the chances of you damaging yourself. So you don't want to rely on safety equipment in a way that makes it a crutch that actually disables you when you take it away. So we have the principle of specificity, we also have the principle of variation, and we also just have the fact of, and this is an important one, everywhere you go, the only thing you're guaranteed to have is yourself. This is part of why you should learn calisthenics. This is part of why you should learn body-to-body wrestling. This is why you should learn bare-knuckle boxing and kickboxing. This is why you should learn stuff that just deals with you in the raw environment, because you have to be able to rely on the only thing you're guaranteed to have, which is you. If you can't rely on you, then relying on that exterior support equipment is only going to become a crutch. People take unnecessary risks with safety equipment on. People punch inhumanly harder and take tactical and make tactical mistakes when they're wearing shin pads and gloves and hand wraps and stuff, because they afford them the ability to strike harder with lower consequence. You don't want that to become your baseline. You want your body and your ability to move freely through the environment with just yourself to be your baseline, and you want everything else that is equipped on top of that to be an accessory to that baseline. So I'm not telling you not to use support equipment. In fact, particularly in lifting, but also in martial arts, if you are injured at a low enough level that you can still train, but you have to take it easy, that's a great time to use support equipment, because it's going to allow you to train more effectively, get the work in without having to worry necessarily about the injury. At least not as much, right? So using support equipment when you're injured, provided it's still advisable to train, provided it's a low enough level injury to train, then yeah, by all means use the support equipment. If it is specific to your task, then use the support equipment. But there needs to be a mixture of raw and equipped. Using those powerlifting terms, there needs to be a mixture of raw and equipped. Because otherwise you're missing out on a huge part of the game. If you only ever train raw, you're not going to be equipped for equipped work. And if you only ever train equipped, you are absolutely not going to be prepared for raw work. You have to have a little bit of both, with the exception that the equipment is only as needed as expected. You don't want to arbitrarily put on equipment just because, right? It should be kind of on an as needed as expected basis. So I guess I'm going to end with that there. But yeah, we're not going to be walking around in, $5 million Batsuits with all sorts of protective gear and, flame retardants and rebreathers and bulletproofing and forensics tools and weapons and right? We're not going to be doing that. But we exist in the martial arts and fitness space where raw and equipped are things. And it is very important that you have kind of both sides of that. And again, the equipped is going to only follow the raw, and the equipped should only be as needed as expected. So I will leave you with that, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.